am Jackie Lu and I'm here to walk you through our case study called The Pattern. It follows Emma, a help desk analyst at Bytecore Solutions, a mid-sized software company based in Toronto. Emma starts to notice a series of subtle but recurring issues with her supervisor Jordan. These aren't obvious legal violations at first, but over time, they build up. Things like she's cut off during meetings, her ideas are ignored, or credited to someone else, being left out of key opportunities, and eventually getting negative performance review with no proper records to back it up. When Emma tries to raise her concerns, Jordan dismisses them. Later, he gives her a poor review, which Emma believes is retaliatory. Now, here's where the legal side becomes important. Emma begins to document everything, not emotionally, but factually and professionally. She keeps timestamp notes, saved emails, and even organizes her records using legal best practices like the five whys: the who, what, when, where, and witnesses. Why does this matter in business law? Because documentation is often the strongest legal defense an employee has. Emma's notes can help prove a consistent pattern of mistreatment. They support her case if she files a complaint with human resources, and they are admissible if she needs to take legal action, like through the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, or a wrongful dismissal claim. So, this isn't just a story about unfair treatment. It's a real example of how business law works in the workplace. Through smart and ethical documentation, Emma protects her rights and strengthens her legal position. Next, Karen will explain the documentation strategy she used and how it follows business law principles.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm Karen, and I'll walk through the documentation strategy used in this case. Emma applied the 5Ws method, documenting who was involved, what happened, when and where it took place, and whether there were any witnesses. She made sure to only include facts she personally observed or experienced, which includes avoiding any hearsay. Her notes were time-stamped, securely stored, and always written in a neutral, professional tone. She also saved emails, calendar invites, and performance records, or anything that could support her observations. She kept everything confidential, which is critical. All of these actions contributed to a strong ethical documentation trail. Now let's take a look at the legal and ethical implications of her efforts.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, I'm Jonathan, and I'll explain the legal and ethical considerations of Emma's actions. Legally, Emma's documentation was solid. Her emails and performance records fall under the business records exception to hearsay, and her written notes, created immediately incidents, help establish a credible timeline. This would support her in case of an HR investigation or even in front of the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, as she may be experiencing discrimination or retaliation. Ethically, she did things the right way. She stayed truthful, she respected confidentiality, she avoided illegal recordings or gossip, and she focused on resolving the issue constructively. Her approach preserved her professional reputation and made it easier for HR or legal teams to take her seriously. Now, let's each share a brief personal reflection on what we have learned about ethics and documentation on this case.
One thing this case taught me is how important evidence is in business law, especially when it comes to workplace disputes. It's not enough to just feel something is wrong. In legal situations, you need facts, you need records, and those records have to be accurate, objective, and properly documented. If your notes are emotional, vague, and based on hearsay, they can actually hurt your case. But if they're time stamped, fact based, and respectful, they can hold up in an investigation or even in court. I also learned that documenting workplace issues is not about getting revenge or trying to win an argument. It's about protecting your rights within the framework of the law. When done properly, it supports fair outcomes, not just for the individual, but for the organization too. In business law, documentation is not just helpful, it is essential.
For me, the biggest takeaway was the importance of confidentiality. Even when things feel unfair, it's not okay to share documents or messages with coworkers or on social media. Documentation should be private and used for the right reasons, not to shame someone or win arguments. And that's what makes it ethical.
What stood out for me was the idea of intent. Emma didn't document things to get revenge or prove someone wrong. She did it to protect herself and find a solution. That what's make her approach not just legally smart but ethically sound. Documentation should never be about hurting others. It should be about making things right.
Sometimes the problem is subtle, but clear documentation reveals the truth, and it turns vague concerns into solid evidence.
Strategic, ethical documentation is your strongest workplace defense.
In law and in life, honesty and integrity are always the best strategy.